Welcome, Sister Amina. Thank you for joining us today. My name is again Omar, and I'm speaking on behalf of the MCC Health and Awareness Committee. I wanted to kind of introduce you to the committee, but also a number of the individuals that follow along some of the information that we share. I know you came on recently as a new board member, and are also a co-chair on the MCC Youth Committee. So if you can kind of give us a little introduction about yourself, and I know in conversation that we had before, you've also gone to MCC full-time school. So if you can give us a little insight on how that has hopefully been able to shape the individual you are today.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Amina Williams. I am 24 years old. I'm currently a student at Chamberlain University School of Nursing. I was a student at MCC from 2010 to 2010. So I went to the full-time school for a decade, and I've been involved in the school pretty much ever since. I have also been a part of MCC Youth Camp, which is run out of the Chicago location. And I've been a part of that for 13 years now. My family converted to Islam in the 60s. So like I've been Muslim for 3 generations now. And my mom, when she had me and my sister, she wanted us to have like an Islamic education. She wanted us to have like a strong foundation. So she sent us to MCC. And we lived in Rogers Park at the time, but we were willing to make in rush hour traffic, it was like half an hour there and back. But we were willing to make that drive. My mom was willing to make that drive and like pay the tuition because she felt it was worth it. And me personally, I feel it was worth it because that's where like the core of my Islamic education came from. That, and if I'm being honest, camp, which is also an MCC program. It kind of just like shaped me into like the woman, the Muslimah that I am today. And if I'm being perfectly honest, like being a student at MCC is what helped me like want to become hijabi. So I kind of owe a lot to the school in that regard.
That's great to hear. And as we mentioned a little while ago, you're also now a board member at MCC, as well as a co-chair for the MCC Youth Committee. So kind of in some of those roles, what are some things that you feel like you want to see accomplished, or what do you feel like you want to bring to the table, especially with the MCC Youth Committee?
Okay, so I was, approached to run for the board after I voiced some frustrations actually at the masjid and the school for something that I thought was very important, something that I was very passionate about. And the president of MCC reached out to me and said, well, I agree with what you're saying. Why don't we put you in a leadership position so you can start to like affect some change? And so for me, like the changes that I want to see is I really want to like focus on like diversity and inclusion. Like I feel like, especially considering our population, we're already pretty diverse, but we're not that inclusive as a community. And I've heard from people that are not a part of the MCC community that they've heard like horror stories about MCC being, well, just not a friendly place to anybody that's not Desi or Arab. And obviously I'm neither of those things. So I want to, kind of like combat the subtle and not so subtle anti-Blackness that I've seen in the community for the past 20 years, and kind of just make this a more friendly and like welcoming place for all the members of the community, not just the ones that are, look like everybody else. So that's kind of like my main goal. My other goal is to just like keep the youth engaged and make sure that they feel like they have a place in the masjid, because I know that that's a problem that most mosques are not like unique to MCC. So I'm really excited about that.
Excellent. That's awesome to hear. As you mentioned, you're also in nursing school, and you had shared some of what drove you to nursing and your interests in healthcare issues and things that you feel passionate about. Can you provide a little bit of insight into, again, what brought you into nursing in the healthcare field in general, and some of the things that you feel really passionate about when it comes to healthcare?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I wanted to be a doctor. I don't remember where that came from. And then I got to high school and I realized I did not want to go to medical school. I just didn't want to do it. Then my cousin, a student at University of Michigan School of Nursing, it's a really good school, really good program. And that's kind of like what sparked my initial interest. And then in 2015, I was already part of a nursing program, but my grandmother went into the hospital right after the 4th of July in 2015. And she was in the ICU at Lutheran General Hospital for 4 days, I want to say. And she was pretty critical at one point. She had to go on a ventilator. She was diagnosed with heart failure. And it was a really difficult time for my family. But I stayed the night with her, one night right after she had come off the vent. And in that time, I met up with several of her nurses. I actually remember their names. It was Lana and Shayna. And I just remember like the care that they took when looking after my grandmother. And it was something that was just like so inspiring, not just like the medical part of it, but the way that they made her comfortable, the way that they talked to her, the way that they took care of her. And I don't know, that kind of just like solidified what I like deep down already knew, was that I wanted to be a nurse, and like I wanted to do that for somebody else's family. And so I kind of stuck with it. I've had my issues in the past. Obviously, I was in a nursing program back then, but I did not finish that program. Excuse me, I didn't finish that program, but I'm back now, inshallah, and hoping to finish soon. So yeah.
Inshallah, you will. You're kind of in the earlier stages of your career, but do you have any advice for individuals that may be a bit younger than you, or maybe looking into healthcare and wanting to pursue nursing as well?
My biggest piece of advice would be to learn to be okay with failure. And obviously, I say this, with a grain of salt, but college and like just like higher education is very difficult. And if we're being honest, American education systems like K through 12 don't necessarily prepare you for college. My point is that it might take you some time to find your niche and to find what you're passionate about. And it might take a few failures. So like I was in a nursing program. I graduated high school in 2014. I started a nursing program and I ended up leaving 2016 before I was able to finish. And then I took some time off for my health and, came back. And, now I'm in my early to mid 20s, whatever you want to call that. And I'm, back in the program, and I'm still struggling in the sense that like it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I'm still having some failures every now and then, but like I'm kind of like pushing through because I know that it's what I want to do. And I think that my generation and younger are very hard on themselves when it comes to failure and when it comes to just things not necessarily going your way. And we have to learn to be like nicer to ourselves and just be patient with ourselves and like understand that it is all like God's plan. If he wants it to happen, then it will happen. And so just like learn to be okay, like accept your failures and like learn from them and like grow.
I think that is a very important part, because not everyone realizes that what some of us may consider as failures are actually truly life lessons in a sense, right? And they can really shape you into the individual that you need to be for those paths, right? And I think you're right. People may be a little too hard on themselves at times, and it's really about that perseverance that'll eventually get you to where you need to go, right? So that's definitely a great tip. As far as being in healthcare and health education in particular, I know you said there are topics that you are quite passionate about within nursing in particular, and beyond that. So can you share some of that as well, and what you'd like to maybe potentially do within nursing?
So I have two career goals, and if I'm being honest, they are very, very different. One of them is nurse midwifery, which a nurse midwife is, the healthcare provider that helps assist in like the care of pregnant women. So like an OBGYN, but not a doctor. But so just like assisting pregnant women like from throughout their pregnancy and all the way up until they give birth. And the other is sexual assault nurse examiner, which is much lesser known, but if we're being honest, it's equally as important. And I feel like with both of those careers, I can like bring that back to my community, because we already know that like women of color are more likely to face like abuse and so like when it comes to like their care when they're trying to have children and everything, I want to be like that person that like ensures that they get quality care. And then in terms of the other career choice, sane nursing, I think that, you know, people just don't like to talk about it because it's really uncomfortable, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not there. And I've been volunteering with the Chicago Rape Crisis Hotline for about 2 years now to kind of just like get myself acclimated to the whole like talking to victims and helping them through like a really difficult time in their life in any way that I can. And so like that has been a really rewarding experience. And I think that being able to like find a career in nursing that like still focuses on that is like a plus, because there's not enough SANEs in the country. So I don't know, that's a little exciting. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know with the nursing, as far as being a midwife, there were particular, I think, statistics that you made reference to in a conversation that we had before. Do you want to touch up on that as well, as to why, again, you have some passion for that in particular?
So yeah, the one thing that I'm very passionate about is Black maternal mortality. It is, as of 2020, it's 3 times the national average, but I've heard other places like between 3 and 5 times, and like when Black women are 3 to 5 times more likely to die giving birth than their white counterparts. And that disparity is something that shouldn't exist in a first world country like the United States. And to be honest, in terms of developed countries, we rank last in terms of we have the most maternal mortalities in the world. And that disparity in itself is kind of shocking considering like the advances that we've made in healthcare. But like being a Black woman who eventually wants to have children of her own, that statistic does frighten me a little bit. It's from the CDC, by the way. And like, it's why personally, like when the time comes, if the time comes, inshallah, that I would rather not give birth in a hospital. Of course, like I want to do it like safely, but so I have a personal connection to the whole idea of Black maternal mortality because my mother was almost a statistic twice. Even if it wasn't for deaths, I mean, alhamdulillah, she's okay. She was still not treated very well. And like, I don't want to see that happen to me or any of my other like friends of color in the future. And so that's something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, so passion being kind of in healthcare and nursing, wanting to address some of the disparities that you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time with us and sharing some of that insight,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely look forward to kind of working as colleagues with MCC, inshallah, in the near future.
Inshallah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.